On a freezing coastal night, an 8-year-old girl knelt in the snow holding her baby sister and a question too heavy for her age. One lonely man stopped. One quiet choice followed. By morning, 3 lives would change not through rescue, but through trust, warmth, and staying when hope dared breathe. The snow along the Maine coast did not fall violently. It drifted slow, quiet, relentless, like the world was holding its breath. Across from a closed bakery in Cape Elizabeth, a little girl knelt beside the curb, her knees pressed into frozen concrete. She couldn't have been more than 8. Her name was Wren Hale. In her arms, wrapped carefully in a faded cream blanket, slept a baby dove, 11 months old, warm only because Wren made her so. Wren didn't cry. She didn't shout. She watched the street with steady eyes, counting headlights like chances. When Blaze Merrick turned the corner, collar pulled high against the cold, he almost missed her. Almost. His life had become a series of almosts. Almost calling someone, almost going home early, almost feeling something again. Then he heard her voice. "Sir, excuse me." It wasn't loud. It wasn't desperate. It was careful, like she'd learned that noise scared people away. Blaze stopped. The ocean wind tugged at his coat. He looked down and saw the small figure kneeling in snow that soaked straight through denim. Wren lifted her chin, shielding the baby instinctively. "Can we just be warm for a minute?" she asked. "I think I'm doing this wrong." The words struck him harder than any scream could have. Blaze crouched, keeping his distance hands visible slow. The baby breathed softly, a tiny sound swallowed by the night. He felt something tighten in his chest, a memory of another small chair at another table, another winter that never ended. "I'm Blaze," he said quietly. "What's your name, Wren?" "And her dove?" "She's little." Blaze nodded once. A decision formed, not heroic, not dramatic, just human. "Okay," he said. "We'll do this safely. Warm first. Then we figure out the rest together." Wren searched his face for danger. Found none. She nodded. Once. Blaze's house sat above the dark Atlantic like it had been placed there for observation, not living. Glass stone, clean lines. Beautiful in a way that didn't ask to be touched. Inside, warmth wrapped around them immediately. Wren froze at the doorway. She didn't wander. She didn't reach for anything. She stood with Dove held tight, waiting like permission was something you had to earn. "You can come in," Blaze said gently. "Nothing bad happens just because you step forward." She took one careful step, then another. Blaze turned on only a side lamp, soft amber light instead of the harsh ceiling glow. He brought a mug of warm water and offered it not to the baby but to Wren. "For you," he said. Her fingers hesitated before curling around the mug. Warmth seeped into her hands. She swallowed hard. Dove stirred, making a small sound. Wren adjusted the blanket, automatically practiced protective. "You've done well," Blaze said, not as praise but as fact. Wren didn't answer. She just nodded. He set a folded blanket on the couch, leaving space between them. "You're safe here tonight," he continued. "Tomorrow we'll check on your mom. I won't do anything without telling you first." That mattered. It showed in the way Wren's shoulders lowered just a fraction. As Blaze walked down the hall to find spare linens, he passed a closed door. He paused. Behind it lived a room preserved in time, his daughter Junie's room. 8 years old, forever. He didn't open it. When he returned, Wren was seated on the couch, back straight, eyes alert, Dove asleep against her chest. The house once echoing felt different now. Not loud, but no longer empty. Later that night, Blaze sat on the floor a few feet from the couch, careful not to crowd her space. He spoke slowly, like each word needed to earn trust. "Wren," he said, "I'm worried about your mom." Her head snapped up. "She's not bad," she said quickly. "She's just tired. Like her batteries ran out." Blaze nodded. "That happens. It doesn't mean she failed. And it doesn't mean you're supposed to fix everything." Wren looked down at Dove, brushing her thumb over the baby's mitten. "If people find out," she whispered, "they take kids away." Blaze didn't rush to correct her. He acknowledged the fear first. "That's a real worry," he said. "So here's my rule, no surprises. I won't do anything without explaining it. And I won't disappear." She studied him, serious, weighing the cost of belief. "How long is tonight?" she asked. One night, Blaze replied. Then we choose the next right step together. Silence settled between them, not heavy, just thoughtful. Wren finally nodded. Okay. Blaze stood and turned down the lights, leaving the hallway lamp on. He placed a chair beside the guest bed instead of going to his own room. Wren noticed. You don't have to stay, she said. I know, he answered. I want to. Dove breathed softly, safe in warmth. Outside, the ocean kept its steady rhythm. Blaze sat there through the night, eyes open, listening not for danger but for life, returning to a house that had forgotten what it sounded like. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like the night was something to survive. It felt like a beginning. Morning arrived quietly, pale light slipping through the tall windows like it didn't want to intrude. Wren woke first. She always did. Her eyes opened before the house made a sound, and her hand went straight to Dove's blanket, checking warmth before checking anything else. Only after she was sure did Wren sit up. The house smelled different in daylight, coffee, toasted bread, something calm. Blaze stood at the kitchen counter, moving slowly, deliberately. Oatmeal steamed in a bowl. Banana slices were arranged neatly beside it like he'd thought about how small hands reached for food. He didn't call out. He waited. Wren appeared at the doorway, barefoot, cautious. Good morning, Blaze said, gentle. You slept. She nodded. Dove slept, too. That's good, he said, as if that was the most important thing in the world. They ate in quiet. Blaze took the first bite of his own food before sliding the bowl closer to Wren. She watched him, then began to eat small spoonfuls, controlled. After a moment, Blaze asked, Can you tell me where your mom is? Wren hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the spoon. She's home, she said carefully, but not like before. Blaze didn't push. Would you show me the address? Wren nodded once. She said it softly, like saying it too loud might make it disappear. Blaze repeated it back, making sure he heard it right. Okay, he said. We'll go after breakfast. Together. Wren studied his face for a long second. You're not mad, she said. It wasn't a question. No, Blaze replied. I'm focused. Something in Wren's chest loosened. Not relief, permission. She finished her bowl. The drive was quiet. Dove gurgled softly in her carrier, unaware of the weight pressing down on the front seats. Wren sat straight, hands folded, eyes tracking every turn, like she was memorizing the route in case she ever had to do it alone again. They pulled into a narrow coastal housing lane. Low buildings, weathered sidings, salt-stained railings. Wren pointed. That one. Inside, the air was cold, but still. Not dangerous, just thin. Like warmth had been rationed. Mom, Wren called. From the couch, a woman stirred. Maris Hale, early 30s, eyes shadowed with exhaustion, wrapped in blankets that couldn't quite do their job. Her gaze snapped to Blaze first, fear flaring, then to Wren. You're okay, Maris breathed. Wren rushed forward, kneeling. We were warm. Dove slept. Maris exhaled shakily. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean for. Blaze stayed near the doorway, voice calm. Ms. Hale, my name is Blaze Merrick. Wren asked for warmth last night. I brought them somewhere safe. Maris pushed herself upright, ashamed. Did she bother you? No, Blaze said firmly. She protected her sister. Maris's eyes filled. I just needed one more day. Blaze nodded. And today we get help. Maris shook her head weakly. If we go, they take kids. Wren's shoulders stiffened. Blaze knelt so he wasn't towering over anyone. We can do this responsibly, he said. With you involved, with explanations. No surprises. Maris looked at Wren. Wren nodded, small but certain. Okay, Maris whispered. I trust her. And for the first time, Blaze understood this wasn't rescue. It was a handoff of trust. The car heater hummed steadily as Blaze drove toward the hospital, hands firm on the wheel. Maris leaned back, eyes closed, breathing shallow but even. Wren sat beside Dove, one hand resting on the carrier like an anchor. I didn't want her to see me like this, Maris murmured. I kept thinking I'd stand up tomorrow. Blaze kept his eyes on the road. Good people wait too long, he said softly. That doesn't make them weak. Wren spoke without looking up. I just wanted you awake. Maris reached back, fingers brushing her daughter's sleeve. You did enough. The hospital lights rose ahead, bright but steady, not frightening. Blaze parked and turned to face them. Here's what happens, he said calmly. We walk in together. I tell the truth. You stay with your kids. No one disappears. Wren swallowed. Promise I don't promise things I can't control, Blaze said honestly. But I promise to stay. That mattered more. Inside, a nurse met them with a warm blanket and a quiet voice. Maris was guided gently toward care. No rush, no shouting. A social worker's name was mentioned. Support, not threat. Wren's hand tightened on Blaze's sleeve. He crouched beside her immediately. I'm here, he whispered. Nothing happens without you knowing. Wren nodded, eyes shining but steady. As Dove drifted to sleep again, Blaze realized something profound. The most dangerous thing these children had faced wasn't poverty or illness. It was silence. And tonight, finally, no one was silent anymore. The hospital did not feel cold in the way Wren expected. It was bright, clean, filled with low voices and steady footsteps. The kind of place where people moved with purpose, not judgment. A nurse draped a warm blanket over Maris's shoulders and spoke softly, as if volume itself mattered. We're going to take care of you, she said. Your girls can stay right here. Wren held Dove close eyes, following every movement. Blaze stayed beside her, not touching unless invited, his presence a quiet constant. When the doctor arrived, he spoke plainly, no frightening words, no rushed conclusions. Maris needed rest, treatment, time. And the children, the doctor asked. They're safe, Blaze replied immediately. With me. Temporarily. Their mother is aware and involved. The words mattered. Wren felt it. The way adults spoke changed when things were said clearly. A social worker stopped by, not with a clipboard raised like a shield, but with a chair pulled close. Hi, Wren, she said. I'm here to help your mom feel better and make sure you and your sister are okay. Wren nodded, cautious. What does Dove like? The woman asked. That was unexpected. Wren blinked. Warm milk. And songs. The social worker smiled. Good to know. Blaze noticed Wren's shoulders ease slightly. He noticed everything. Hours passed quietly. Vending machines hummed. Dove slept. When Maris was taken for further care, Blaze knelt beside Wren. She's getting help, he said. That's a good thing. Wren looked at him. You didn't leave? No, he replied. I told you I wouldn't. And for the first time since winter began, Wren believed an adult's words might actually last. Blaze filled out forms at a small desk near the waiting area. He didn't rush. He didn't embellish. He wrote exactly what happened, where he found Wren and Dove, how he offered warmth, how Maris consented to care. Wren watched from her seat legs, dangling Dove's carrier tucked safely beside her. What are you writing? She asked. The truth, Blaze said, so no one gets confused later. That answer mattered more than she let on. When the social worker returned, she spoke directly to Blaze. Until their mother is stable, the girls need a safe, temporary place. Blaze nodded. They can stay with me. I've already contacted an attorney to make sure we do this legally. Wren's heart thumped. Attorney sounded big, permanent. The social worker crouched to Wren's level. Wren, would you like to stay with Mr. Merrick for a bit while your mom rests? Wren looked at Blaze. He didn't nod for her. He waited. Wren took a breath. Will I see my mom? Yes, the woman replied, and you'll know what's happening. Wren nodded slowly. Okay. That single word carried weight. Choice. Consent. Later, as they prepared to leave the hospital for the night, Wren tugged on Blaze's sleeve. You explain things before you do them, she said. Blaze smiled faintly. That's how trust works. As they walked out into the cold night hospital lights glowing behind them, Blaze felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Responsibility not as a burden, but as purpose. Back at Blaze's house, the silence felt different now. Not empty. Expectant. Wren stood in the hallway, eyes drawn to a closed door at the end. It felt important, like the house itself was holding its breath. What's in there? She asked quietly. Blaze followed her gaze. His voice softened. That was my daughter's room. Her name was Junie. Wren nodded. Can I see? He hesitated only a second. Then he unlocked the door. The room was untouched, soft colors, a small desk, books neatly lined. It didn't feel sad. It felt paused. She liked stars, Blaze said. Said the ocean was the sky upside down. Wren stepped carefully inside as if afraid to disturb something sacred. She looked at the bed, then back at Blaze. You miss her, she said. Yes. Wren thought for a moment. I miss when my mom laughed. The two truths hung in the air, not competing, just existing. Blaze opened a drawer and pulled out a blank notebook and a box of crayons. If you want, he said, you can draw here. This room can hold new things. Wren took the notebook gently like a gift with rules. Later from the guest room, Blaze heard the faint sound of crayon on paper. The house once built for silence had begun to learn something new. How to listen. Morning light filtered into the hospital room in thin, careful lines, as if it too was trying not to disturb anything fragile. Maris Hale was awake when Blaze returned, not fully alert but present. Her eyes followed him as he entered, then shifted immediately toward the door behind him. The girls, she asked, voice hoarse. They're safe, Blaze said at once. They're at my house. Warm. Fed. Wren wouldn't leave Dove's side. Maris closed her eyes, relief loosening something in her chest she hadn't realized was locked tight. Thank you, she whispered. I didn't want her to be brave like that. Blaze sat in the chair beside her bed, hands folded, posture open. She didn't choose bravery, he said gently. She chose love. There's a difference. Maris's eyes filled. I kept telling myself I'd get better tomorrow. I thought if I rested one more day, I could stand up and be her mom again. You still are, Blaze said. You just needed help. A doctor stepped in shortly after, calm, clear professional. Maris needed continued treatment and rest. No dramatic language. No deadlines spoken aloud. Just the truth, delivered carefully. When the doctor left, Maris looked at Blaze, something resolute settling into her expression. I need you to keep them with you, she said. For now. Legally, properly. I don't want fear making choices for us. Blaze nodded once. I've contacted an attorney, and a social worker is already aware. Nothing hidden. Maris exhaled. Wren's afraid of disappearing. So am I, Blaze admitted quietly. That's why I won't. Later that afternoon, Blaze sat with Hannah Klein, the assigned caseworker. They spoke plainly about temporary guardianship consent documentation. No shortcuts, Hannah said. Children do best when adults don't panic. I agree, Blaze replied. That night, back at the house, Wren sat at the kitchen island, coloring quietly while Blaze prepared dinner. She watched him with careful eyes. You talked to my mom, she said. Yes. Did she say we could stay? She did, Blaze answered. And she wants to get better. Wren nodded, accepting the truth the way children do, piece by piece. For the first time, decisions weren't being avoided. They were being made with intention. The paperwork arrived the next day in a thin folder that looked far too ordinary to carry so much weight. Temporary guardianship. Blaze read the words slowly, carefully, like reading them too fast might make them less real. Wren sat nearby on the couch, knees tucked under her Dove's carrier at her feet. She watched his face, reading it like a weather report. What does it say, she asked. It says you and Dove can stay here while your mom focuses on getting better, Blaze replied. And that everyone knows where you are. Wren considered this. So we're not hiding, no, Blaze said firmly. We're being responsible. That mattered. Hannah Klein visited that afternoon not to inspect, but to observe. She checked smoke detectors, glanced at the guest room, asked about routines. Then she sat with Wren at the dining table, voice soft. Do you feel safe here? Wren didn't answer right away. She looked at Blaze, who was deliberately not listening too closely, giving space without leaving. Yes, Wren said finally. And he explains things. Hannah smiled and wrote that down. When she left, the house felt strangely quiet again, but not the old quiet. This one had footsteps in it. That evening, Blaze found Wren standing in the hallway outside the closed bedroom door at the end. Junie's room, she said softly. Yes, can it be something else too? Blaze opened the door. The room still smelled faintly of lavender. He didn't rush to change it. It can grow, he said. not replace. Grow. Wren nodded, satisfied with that distinction. Later, as Blaze tucked Dove into the crib, Wren hovered nearby. "You know how she said?" "I remember," he replied. "Some things stay in your hands even when time passes." Wren leaned against the doorframe, eyelids heavy. "Are we guests?" she asked quietly. Blaze paused, choosing honesty over comfort. "Right now, you're family in progress." Wren thought about that. Then she smiled, small, tired, real. "I like progress," she said. That night, Blaze sat alone in the living room, the folder resting on the coffee table. Temporary, legal, real. And for the first time since Junie died, responsibility didn't feel like something that would crush him. It felt like something that might hold him together. Ordinary nights turned out to be the most difficult and the most healing. Dinner was simple: soup, bread, nothing special. Wren insisted on setting the table, aligning the forks carefully, like order was something you could create with your hands. Blaze let her. Dove babbled happily from her seat, slapping the tray with open palms. Wren laughed, an unguarded sound that surprised even her. "You do that?" Blaze said gently. "You make her laugh." Wren shrugged, embarrassed. "She likes silly voices." "Me too," Blaze admitted. After dinner, Blaze read aloud while Wren sat curled at the far end of the couch. She pretended not to listen, but her eyes followed every word. Halfway through the chapter, she asked, "Do you think my mom knows we're okay?" "Yes," Blaze said without hesitation. "She asked me to make sure you were." That settled something in her. When it was time for bed, Wren lingered, holding her toothbrush like a shield. "I don't sleep good sometimes," she admitted. Blaze nodded. "Doors can stay open, lights can stay on, you can ask questions. Will you be mad if I wake up?" "Even if it's late, especially if it's late," Wren nodded, absorbing the permission. Later, long after the house went quiet, Blaze heard soft footsteps. Wren stood at the end of the hall, clutching her notebook. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered. Blaze moved the chair beside the guest bed and sat without a word. Wren climbed back under the blanket, notebook pressed to her chest. "What are you drawing?" he asked softly. "A house," she said, "with a light on." Blaze smiled, something warm and aching spreading through him. "That's a good house," he said. As Wren drifted off, Blaze stayed in the chair, listening to the slow rhythm of two children breathing in a home that had learned finally how to keep a light on. The week of the official home visit arrived the way winter storms did on the coast, quiet in the forecast, heavy in the air. Blaze didn't say that out loud. He didn't want Wren to feel like the house itself was on trial. But he prepared anyway, not with panic, with care. He checked the smoke detectors twice. He adjusted the child-proof latch on the cabinet beneath the sink. He moved Dove's crib a few inches farther from the window, just in case the draft returned. Not because anyone demanded perfection, but because this was what responsibility looked like when you didn't run from it. Wren watched him from the kitchen doorway, notebook tucked under her arm like a shield. "Is she coming today?" she asked. "Yes," Blaze said. "Hannah Klein. She just wants to see how we live and how you're doing. No traps, no surprises." Wren nodded, then glanced down the hall toward Junie's room. The door was open now, the way Blaze had left it, inviting, but respectful. A reading lamp glowed softly inside, as if the room had learned it could hold more than memory. When Hannah arrived, she didn't march in with suspicion. She came in with the calm energy of someone who'd learned that children can feel fear in adult posture before they ever hear adult words. "Hi, Blaze," she said, warm but professional. "Hi," he replied. "Thank you for coming." Hannah greeted Wren at eye level. "Hey, Wren. And this must be Dove." Dove perched in her seat, blinked slowly, and offered a gummy smile that disarmed the whole room. Hannah walked through the house with quiet efficiency. She checked the basics, asked about routines, took note of schedules and pediatric appointments. Blaze answered clearly without performing. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was trying to be stable. Then Hannah asked for a private conversation with Wren, door ajar. Blaze, within sight, every boundary respected. Wren sat at the table with her hands folded. Hannah's voice stayed gentle. "Wren, do you know why I'm here?" Wren nodded carefully. "To make sure we're okay." "That's right," Hannah said. "Not to punish your mom, not to punish you, to make sure you're supported. So, tell me what helps you feel safe." Wren looked down at the table thinking. Lights, she said. And being told what's happening? Hannah smiled faintly. That's a very smart answer. Wren's eyes lifted. He explains things, she added. Before he does them, Hannah wrote that down, then paused. Do you want to keep staying here while your mom gets stronger? Wren's throat moved like she swallowed something too big. She glanced at Blaze in the doorway. He didn't nod, didn't steer her. Just waited. Yes, Wren said quietly. But I want to see my mom. You will, Hannah promised. We'll make a plan that keeps everyone connected. After Hannah left, Blaze didn't exhale in relief, like he'd survived something. He exhaled like he'd finally learned how to stand still under pressure. That evening, Maris video called. Her face looked clearer than before, eyes open, voice steadier. Hi, my birds, she said softly. Wren sat up straighter. Dove squealed at the sound of her mother's voice slapping the air like she could reach through the screen. Maris smiled at Blaze. I heard you met Hannah. Blaze nodded. She was fair, child-centered. Maris's lips trembled. That's all I want. I don't want Wren thinking love is something that gets taken away. Wren's voice came out small. Mom, when you come home, Maris held the gaze like it mattered because it did. Soon, she said. And until then, you get to rest. You get to be 8. Wren blinked hard. She tried to say okay, but her voice cracked in the middle of it. Blaze didn't speak. He simply stayed close enough that Wren could lean toward him if she needed, and far enough that she didn't feel trapped. After the call, Wren went to the fridge and taped a new drawing beside the old one that said safe. A lighthouse beam sweeping over a house. Under it, 4 stick figures holding hands. One was labeled Mom, one was labeled Dove, one was labeled Wren, and the last one she paused, then wrote carefully, Blaze. Not Sir, not Mr. Merrick. Just a name. Just a place. The call came in the late afternoon, when the ocean outside looked like dark glass, and the sky had started to fade into a bruised winter dusk. Blaze was in the kitchen, rinsing a bottle. Wren sat at the table doing homework pencil, moving slowly, carefully, like mistakes cost something. His phone buzzed. A hospital number. Blaze didn't let his face change too fast. Children notice everything. Instead, he dried his hands, answered, and stepped just far enough away that Wren wouldn't hear details. Yes, he said quietly. This is Blaze Merrick. The nurse's voice was calm, professional. Maris had taken a turn, not a dramatic collapse, not a crisis, screamed into the phone. Just a shift in medical reality that needed attention. They wanted Blaze to come in for a meeting, and they wanted Wren to be prepared for the fact that her mother might need more time and care than expected. When Blaze hung up, Wren looked up immediately. What happened? He sat back down at the table, not looming, not hovering, just present. He placed the bottle cap down like it was important to stay steady with small things. Your mom's doctors want to adjust her plan, he said. She needs more rest and more support right now. Wren's fingers tightened around her pencil. Is she mad? Blaze shook his head. No. She's working hard. Healing isn't a straight line. Wren swallowed. Is she leaving? The question came out tiny, like it had been trapped inside her ribs for days. Blaze didn't lie. He didn't dramatize. He chose words that held truth without harming her heart. I don't know what will happen, he said gently. But I do know this, your mom loves you, and you will not be alone. Wren stared at him, eyes glossy, trying to keep her face calm like she'd practiced. You said no one disappears, she whispered. Blaze's voice softened. That rule still stands. If anything changes, you'll know. We'll talk. We'll go together. Wren nodded once too fast, like she was trying to convince herself. Then she went very still. Dove began to fuss from her seat, sensing the shift. Wren stood immediately across the kitchen and lifted her sister with a gentleness that looked older than 8. Blaze watched her hold Dove close and felt something twist inside him, not pity, not fear, recognition. A child who had learned to be steady before the world learned to be kind. That night, Blaze did something he hadn't done in years. He opened Junie's memory box. Not to fall apart. Not to torture himself, but because he finally understood what memory was supposed to do, connect you, not cage you. He found a small, worn photograph Junie in a paper crown frosting on her chin, laughing like the universe had never taught her the word before. He didn't show it to Ren like a lesson. He simply brought it to the living room and set it on the mantel. Ren noticed. She always noticed. "Who's that?" she asked softly. Blaze sat beside her, leaving space. "My daughter, Junie." Ren leaned closer, studying the picture. "She looks happy." "She was," Blaze said. His voice caught slightly, then steadied. "And she'd like you." Ren's lip trembled. Why, Blaze looked at her. Really looked. "Because you love your sister," he said. "Because you try even when you're tired. And because you're learning how to trust again." Ren blinked, tears slipping silently. "I don't want to be brave," she whispered, voice breaking. "I want my mom." Blaze didn't correct her. He didn't say everything will be fine. He said something better. Something real. "I know," he said softly. "And wanting her doesn't make you weak. It makes you her daughter." Ren pressed her forehead to the couch cushioned shoulders, shaking in a quiet way that didn't feel like a breakdown. It felt like a child finally letting herself be ate for a moment. Blaze sat there, hand open on the cushion between them. After a long minute, Ren reached out and placed her small hand in his. Not as a contract, not as a label, as a request. "Hold this with me." Blaze held on gently, like trust was a living thing that could bruise if squeezed too hard. Outside, snow drifted in slow, silent flakes. Inside, the air had changed. Not because things were fixed, because nobody was pretending anymore. The hospital room was quiet in the way libraries are quiet, soft, reverent, full of things people don't say out loud because they might break. Blaze brought Ren and Dove in during visiting hours, checking in with the nurses, first making sure everything was appropriate and calm. He didn't want the girls startled by machines or rushed voices. He wanted this to feel like what it was, a mother being loved. Maris lay propped slightly higher than before. Her hair was brushed. Her eyes were open, clearer. When she saw them, something in her face warmed instantly, like a candle lighting behind glass. "There are my birds," she whispered. Ren crossed the room slowly, as if moving too fast might make the moment disappear. Blaze stayed a step behind. Dove babbled in her carrier, bouncing her mittened hands. Maris reached out. Ren took her hand carefully, as if her mother was made of something delicate. "I'm sorry," Maris said, voice faint but steady. "I'm so sorry I scared you." Ren shook her head quickly. "I'm okay," she lied the way children lie to protect adults. Maris's eyes filled. "No," she whispered. "You don't have to be okay for me. You get to be honest." Ren's lower lip trembled. She held on tighter. I want you to come home," she said, voice small and raw. Maris closed her eyes for a second, breathing through it. "I want that too," she said. "More than anything." Dove squealed at the sound of her mother's voice. Maris smiled through tears. "Hi, Dove," she murmured. "Sweet girl." Blaze stepped forward and gently positioned the carrier so Maris could see the baby better without strain. Then he stepped back, letting the moment belong to them. After a few minutes, Maris's gaze shifted to Blaze. Not fear this time. Something deeper. Gratitude mixed with a question too heavy to speak. Blaze understood. He moved closer, lowering his voice so Ren wouldn't have to carry adult words. Maris's fingers tightened around his sleeve. "If I don't get better fast," she whispered, "they'll start talking about plans." Blaze nodded. "We'll make plans that protect the girls. With dignity. With you included." Maris swallowed. Ren thinks love disappears. Blaze's throat tightened. "It won't. Not on my watch." Maris's eyes glistened. "Promise me something." Blaze didn't rush to say yes. He waited because promises weren't decorations. They were compasses. Maris whispered, "Promise me they'll never feel like they're being passed around. Like they're a problem someone has to solve." Blaze's chest ached with the weight of it because he knew what it was to feel like life moved on without your consent. He leaned in, voice steady. "I promise you this," he said softly. "They will feel wanted. Every day. And I will do this the right way, law, love, and truth. No hiding, no fear." Maris exhaled a trembling release. Ren looked up at Blaze, hearing enough to understand the shape of it. "Does that mean we can stay together? Wren asked, voice cautious. Blaze crouched beside her chair so she wouldn't have to look up. Yes, he said. Together. Maris reached for Wren's cheek, cupping it the way mothers do when they're trying to memorize a face. You hear him, she whispered. Together. Wren nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks without sound. Blaze didn't wipe them away like they were a problem. He let them exist, like weather honest passing through. Before they left, Wren leaned close to her mother and whispered something Blaze barely caught. I drew the lighthouse again, she said. The light stays on. Maris smiled, eyes shining. Good, she whispered. Keep it on. In the hallway afterward, Wren walked close to Blaze, not clinging, just near, like proximity was a new kind of safety she was learning to trust. At the elevator, she tugged lightly on his sleeve. Do promises really work? She asked. Blaze looked down at her and answered with the kind of certainty that comes only from grief and choice. They work when someone lives them, he said. And I will. Wren nodded slowly, like she was placing that sentence somewhere deep inside herself, right next to the lighthouse beam. A compass. A way home. The morning Maris passed away did not arrive with thunder. It came with pale winter light slipping through half-open blinds, with the low hum of machines doing their work until there was no more work to do. Blaze arrived at the hospital before the call had fully settled into his bones. He moved through the corridors with the calm of someone who understood that panic would only steal dignity from a moment that deserved reverence. Maris lay still, her face softened, her breathing gone quiet, in a way that did not feel frightening, only final. Blaze sat beside her and rested his hand near hers without touching it first, as if asking permission even now. I'm here, he said softly. I've got them. There was no response. There didn't need to be. He stayed a few minutes longer, honoring the silence, then stood and did the hardest thing he had learned to do since Junie died. He prepared to tell the truth gently. Back at the house, Wren was sitting on the floor with Dove stacking wooden blocks into a careful tower. She looked up the moment Blaze entered, reading his face before he spoke. Did you see her? She asked. Yes, Blaze said, and sat down so he was level with her. I did. Wren nodded. Is she sleeping? Blaze paused, not long, just enough to choose words that would not break her. She died this morning, he said quietly. That means her body stopped working. But her love didn't go anywhere. Wren didn't cry right away. She looked down at the blocks, then gently knocked the tower over and began rebuilding it. Her hands moved slowly, deliberately. She won't wake up, Wren said, more statement than question. No, Blaze replied. Wren's breath hitched once. Then she asked the question that mattered most. Are we still together? Blaze's voice did not waver. Yes. Wren finally leaned forward, pressing her forehead into his shoulder. It wasn't dramatic. It was heavy in the way only real grief is. I wanted her to see me be not scared, she whispered. Blaze wrapped one arm around her, steady and sure. She already did. They didn't rush anything that day. No explanations beyond what Wren asked for. No forced normalcy. When the time came for the small private service, Blaze made sure it was quiet and appropriate. No crowds, no speeches, meant for adults instead of children. Wren held Blaze's hand the entire time. Dove slept against his chest, warm and unaware of the weight passing gently above her. As they left, Wren looked back once. I'm going to keep the light on, she said. Blaze nodded. She'd like that. The guardianship hearing took place on a clear winter morning sunlight, reflecting off the courthouse steps like something hopeful. Wren wore a navy dress that Mrs. Feldman, the housekeeper who had quietly returned, had pressed carefully the night before. Dove sat on Blaze's knee, fascinated by the echo of footsteps. Inside the courtroom, everything felt smaller than Wren expected. Less scary, more human. The judge spoke gently, reviewing paperwork with care rather than suspicion. Blaze answered questions plainly without performance. Do you understand the responsibility you are accepting? The judge asked. Yes, Blaze said. I've been living it. The judge turned to Wren, lowering her voice. Wren, do you feel safe with Mr. Merrick? Wren looked at Blaze. Then she looked at the judge. Yes, she said clearly. He stays. That was enough. When the papers were signed, there was no applause, just a quiet sense of arrival. Outside, Wren spun once on the courthouse steps, arms wide, letting the cold air rush past her, like she needed to feel something new. "So, that's it?" she asked. Blaze smiled. "That's it." Wren thought for a moment. "Does that mean you're my dad?" Blaze knelt so she wouldn't have to look up. "Only if that's what you want?" Wren didn't answer right away. She stepped closer, slipped her hand into his, and squeezed once. "Yes," she said. At home, Blaze opened Junie's room for the last transformation, not erasing honoring. Together, they painted one wall a soft mint green. Wren chose butterflies for the comforter. Blaze kept the bookshelf, filling it with new stories. "This can be my reading fort," Wren decided. "It already is," Blaze replied. That night, Wren stood in the doorway watching Blaze tuck Dove into her crib. "You're doing it right," she said seriously. Blaze smiled. "I'm learning." Wren nodded, satisfied. Spring arrived slowly along the Maine coast. Snow melted into quiet streams. The ocean softened its edge. Inside the house, warmth no longer came only from heaters, it came from routine. Lunchboxes by the door, crayons on the table, a baby monitor humming softly at night. Wren stopped asking how long they were staying. One evening, as Blaze sat on the couch with Dove asleep against his chest, Wren curled beside him and rested her head on his arm like it had always belonged there. "I like this house better now," she said. "So do I," Blaze answered. She tilted her head. "It doesn't feel empty anymore." Blaze looked at the fridge where 2 drawings hung side by side, Junie's old artwork and Wren's lighthouse. "I think houses remember," he said. "They just need voices." Later, as Blaze tucked Wren into bed, she surprised him by reaching for his hand before he turned off the light. "Thank you for choosing us," she whispered. Blaze's throat tightened. He smoothed her hair gently. "You saved me first." Wren smiled sleepily. "We both did." He sat beside her until her breathing evened, then moved quietly to Dove's room. The baby shifted, then settled again, safe. Blaze remained there, standing in the doorway, understanding something at last. Love did not arrive as a miracle. It arrived as presence, as explanation, as a light left on when no one asked. And in that quiet house by the sea where grief had once ruled every room, Blaze Merrick finally understood. This was not an ending. It was a beginning that stayed. Time did not rush forward after that. It softened. Mornings began to sound different. Not silent, not urgent, just alive. The soft clatter of a spoon against a bowl. The quiet hum of the kettle. A baby's delighted squeal when the sun found its way through the kitchen window. Wren no longer asked how long they were staying. That question simply stopped appearing. Instead, she reminded Blaze to pack her lunch, corrected him when he forgot Dove's extra socks, and taped her school schedule to the refrigerator like it belonged there. Like she belonged there. Blaze noticed the change, not in big moments, but in the small ones. The way Wren left her notebook on the coffee table without tucking it away. The way she hummed while doing homework off-key and unafraid. The way she spoke about her mother not with panic, but with remembrance. She liked the ocean in winter, Wren said one evening, as they walked along the shore. She said it was honest. Blaze nodded. She sounds like someone who paid attention. Wren smiled at that. At night, Blaze sometimes caught himself pausing outside Junie's old room, now Wren's reading fort, listening to the soft sound of pages turning. The room no longer felt frozen in time. It felt layered, like love had found a way to overlap instead of replace. One evening, as Blaze carried Dove upstairs, Wren followed behind. "You don't look sad all the time anymore," she said carefully. Blaze considered that. "I still miss her." "I know," Wren replied. "But you smile now." Blaze looked down at her, this child who had learned too early how to hold the world steady, and realized something quietly extraordinary. Grief hadn't vanished. It had learned to share space. To the outside world, nothing remarkable had happened. A man continued his work. A little girl went to school. A baby learned how to clap. No headlines, no applause. But inside the house by the sea, something essential had shifted. The refrigerator door bore fingerprints now. The hallway light stayed on at night without anyone needing to ask. The baby monitor clicked softly even when Dove slept through until morning. Wren stopped flinching when doors closed. She stopped listening for footsteps that meant leaving. One afternoon, as Blaze tied Wren's scarf before school, she looked up at him, eyes steady and calm. "You're not pretending anymore," she said. Blaze smiled. "Neither are you." She considered that, then nodded. "Good." At night, Blaze wrote in a small journal he kept beside his bed, not about loss, not about miracles. Just notes. Wren laughed today. Dove said something that sounded like my name. The house feels warm even when it's quiet. He didn't write because he was afraid to forget. He wrote because this time he wanted to remember while it was happening. On the first night of the next snowfall, Wren stood at the living room window watching white flakes drift slowly down. "Do you think the light still works?" she asked. Blaze followed her gaze to the lighthouse far down the coast, its beam cutting steadily through the dark. "Yes," he said. "It always does." Wren leaned into his side. Dove slept against his chest, warm and safe. "Thank you for finding us," Wren whispered. Blaze kissed the top of her head gently. "You found me." Outside, the world moved the way it always had, fast, uncertain, indifferent. But inside that quiet house, something rare had taken root. Not a miracle. Not a perfect ending. Just a promise lived daily. A light left on. A door that didn't close. A family formed not by accident, but by choice. And that Blaze Merrick knew was enough. Forever didn't need to be loud. It just needed to stay. Did this story move your soul? Share your feelings in the comments and rate it from 1 to 10. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, then tap the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Click the end screen to watch another heartfelt video. See you in the next story.